Jenny was sitting in a luxurious room at the Four Seasons in downtown Manhattan, wearing a white wedding dress. Her brown hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her plump pink lips, blushing cheeks, and hazel eyes, lined with makeup, made her look even more beautiful, almost like the perfect bride. But she was worried. Her forehead and palms started to sweat and her throat was dry. She anxiously kept checking her phone and pacing up and down the room, clutching the veil in her hand. She picked up the phone and dialed a number. "When will you be here? What if someone finds out?" Jenny asked nervously. On the other end, Samantha replied, "Just a few more minutes, hold on. I'm almost done here." Before Jenny could speak further, Samantha hung up the phone. Still anxious, Jenny sat on the bed and looked out the window, from which she could see the Chrysler Building. Her mind began to wander, thinking about how she got herself into this situation. More than anything, Jenny wanted to be an architect. She put herself through Cornell University with a full scholarship and big dreams. Only a month after she graduated, she joined Revolution Designs so she could work with the best architects for the big projects in the country. Unfortunately, Samantha had made things difficult for her. Jenny spent more time outside the office, running Samantha's personal errands than meeting with clients and architects, and working on upcoming projects. Jenny knew it would be difficult at work because Samantha was not only her boss but also her stepsister. Despite all of it, she was determined to stay on and make her way to the top. It was important for Jenny to prove herself at work, especially since she got this job because her father was the CEO of the company. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. Jenny froze. The knock came again. She quickly put on the veil to cover her face, and crossed her fingers hoping that whoever it was wouldn't discover the truth. She heard the man say, "Room service." She heaved a sigh of relief and walked to open the door, her eyes looking down at the floor. The entire time, the waiter kept the plate on the table and left the room. She uncovered the cloche to find the aromatic and appetizing hors d'oeuvres, but she knew she was too nervous to eat even a bite of it. She picked up the phone and rang again. "Hi, Samantha. How much longer will you be? I'm getting so nervous. Someone will definitely figure it out now. The ceremony will be starting soon. Please hurry," she said, anxiously, pacing up and down the room. "Jenny, all you have to do is put on my dress and wait for me. Isn't that simple? I don't need to remind you that I'm paying you more than I should just for this. So, sit tight and wait till I get there." Samantha disconnected the call. As the time for the ceremony neared, Jenny grew more and more apprehensive. After 20 minutes, there was still no sign of Samantha. Jenny knew that if she called again, Samantha would be angry and then there's no telling what would happen. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Room service again, Jenny thought to herself. When she didn't open the door, there was another impatient knock. She took slow and small steps towards the door and placed her hand on the knob, and with the other hand, checked to see if her veil had hidden her face entirely. She opened the door slowly, and turned away quickly and then heard a man say, "Hey, babe, you weren't answering the door, so I tried calling you." He entered the room and closed the door. From the corner of her eye, Jenny saw the tall, lean man, wearing a navy blue suit. He was fair and had a stubble on his face. She stood near the bed, facing the wall and looking down at her feet so he wouldn't notice that she wasn't the bride he was expecting. "He's definitely Julian," she thought to herself. He started walking towards her. Jenny was nervous and afraid. If she made one wrong move, everything would be ruined. In a few seconds, he was standing close to her, her back facing him. She could feel his warm breath on her neck. Jenny's heart raced. Suddenly, she felt Julian holding her slim waist with his big, strong hands. She froze in place, too nervous to move. He quickly turned her around and hugged her. His hands were still on her waist and slowly moved down her hips. Surprisingly, and without thinking, Jenny hugged him back. She felt that it was somehow the right thing to do. He gently kissed her on the shoulder and then on the neck, and as he did, he lifted her veil with one hand. Jenny shivered. Slowly, he pulled away. He looked at her bent head and somehow, the veil on her head helped conceal some parts of her face, enough for him to believe her to be Samantha. Julian's hands moved from Jenny's waist to her face, gently caressing her cheeks. He whispered, "I couldn't wait to see you before the ceremony." He closed his eyes and bent his head to kiss her, at the same time lifting her cheeks. Soon, their lips were locked in a passionate kiss. Jenny went weak in the knees. Even though she knew it was wrong, she did not stop him or push him away. Moreover, she did not want to. Julian Scott had come to the room, hoping to see his bride. He had no idea that the woman in the wedding dress was Jenny, and she was going to drive him crazy. "Julian!" Someone shrieked from behind. Julian turned around and was surprised. "Samantha!" And he quickly withdrew his hands from around Jenny. Jenny took a step back and stood silently, looking down. Julian continued, "What the hell? If you are here, then who is this?" He turned to Jenny. Samantha walked angrily towards Jenny. "How dare you? All you had to do was wear my dress and wait. I told you to cover for me, not kiss my future husband," she shrieked. Before Jenny could respond, Julian interrupted, "Cover for you? What do you mean?" Samantha held his hand and replied, "Just give me a minute, Julian. I promise I'll tell you everything." "No, tell me now," Julian yelled angrily. "Where were you? Why weren't you here? And who the hell is this woman? What could be so important that you had to leave on our wedding day and make a complete stranger take your place?" He was furious and confused. Samantha turned to Jenny and yelled, "I gave you one job and you couldn't even do that. I told you I would be here the minute I finished the meeting, and you just couldn't handle it. It's all your fault. You messed it up." Julian scoffed and responded, "A meeting? Seriously? A freaking meeting? That's what you were doing on the day we were supposed to get married. And you don't even care that you hurt me, you're just angry that I found out about it. Wow, Samantha, I can't believe this." He smiled sarcastically. "It's not what you think, Julian." Samantha replied, suddenly realizing that Julian was really pissed and her marriage was in jeopardy. However, Julian interrupted. "I don't understand why you agreed to marry me if you don't care about me or this relationship. You know what? You can go ahead and take care of all your meetings now. We're done. I don't ever want to see you again. The wedding is off." He stomped out of the room, banging the door on the way out. Samantha called out to Julian, pleading, "Please listen, Julian, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, I didn't mean for this to happen. Please listen to me." But Julian had moved out of there angrily. Jenny stood in the corner and witnessed the end of Julian and Samantha's relationship. She desperately wanted to escape this situation. She thought of the consequences that she would have to face, and felt guilty for ruining a wedding. She thought of how terrible Julian must have felt when he found out about this ruse. Then Samantha turned to Jenny and shouted, "Oh my God. Jenny, what the hell? This is all your fault. Get out. Jenny was numb. She took a deep breath and composed herself. Samantha, I'm sorry, this wasn't supposed to happen. It's not my fault, I had no idea what was happening, I was just trying to do my job. Nothing else. It was not your job to kiss my fiancé, Jenny. Samantha glared angrily at Jenny. You know, just because your family was broken, doesn't mean you have to ruin other people's lives. Just get out. And don't bother coming back to the office again. You're fired. What? Look, Samantha, you know how much I need this job. And I only did what you told me to do, Jenny responded in a miserable tone. That's too bad. You messed it up. You're finished now. I will destroy you and your little dreams. Get out, Samantha yelled arrogantly. Jenny changed out of the wedding dress and threw it on the floor angrily before leaving the room. She walked out of the hotel and checked her phone. It was 9 in the night. All she wanted to do was go back home, take a hot shower, and forget about the events of the day. She hailed a cab and gave the address of her house. On her way back, she thought about Samantha, her job at Revolution Designs, and what will she do now? Her life seemed to always be at the mercy of Samantha or her father. And now, things got worse. Samantha will never let this go. Thinking of Samantha, she thought of Julian. She lightly brushed her finger against her lips, reminding herself of the kiss. She had never been kissed like that before. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was her mom. Before she could ask anything, Jenny exclaimed with a fake smile in her voice, "Hey Mom, I'm on my way, I'll see you soon." When she disconnected the call, her thoughts went back to Julian. I can't believe I'll never see him again, she thought to herself. Soon, they reached the block in Brooklyn where her apartment was. She paid the driver and went upstairs. When she entered her apartment, Jenny saw her mom sitting on the couch and felt calmer. Her mother noticed the frown that Jenny tried to hide, and asked her, "What's the matter, sweetie?" "Nothing," Jenny replied. "I had a long day and I'm tired." Grace accepted her daughter's false response because she didn't want to push too far. "Okay then, let's have dinner," she suggested. They sat in silence throughout dinner. Samantha kept picking at her food and barely ate half of it. Grace kept looking at Jenny, hoping that she would finally speak up. Afterwards, Grace asked directly, "Sweetie, are you upset because your father is coming tomorrow? He called today and asked about you." Jenny looked at her in surprise and replied in a cold tone of voice, "No, Mother. I don't care enough about him to let him upset me. I tolerate him because of you and because of work, which won't be the case now. Now, if it is okay with you, I would prefer not to talk about him until I see him." She put the dishes in the sink. "I'm going to bed now, I'm really tired," she announced. Then she kissed her mother on the cheek, and went to her room. She stepped into the hot shower, hoping to wash off all the worry and the drama of the day. She hoped for a better day tomorrow, but she dreaded meeting her father. As she laid her head on the pillow and tried to fall asleep, her mind wandered to that unforgettable kiss with Julian. Despite all the bad things that happened that day, Jenny could only focus on the kiss. Gradually, she fell asleep.